welcome back to the George Collection. I'm Rachel Rightside Blonde. Today is episode 159. 159 in gematria is John F. Kennedy Jr., so let's talk about John F. Kennedy Jr. In particular, let's talk about the August 1999 issue of George magazine with Ben Stiller on the cover. As mentioned before, this issue features Ben Stiller on the cover sharpening his pencil in a Bill Clinton pencil sharpener. Very strange given the rumors of what actually happened. I've read a couple articles from this issue before, and I've gone through this cover before with Ben Stiller, but I want to cover a couple things that I've noticed about this issue in particular. So taking the notion that articles and covers and colors and even advertisements might mean something, let's look at this magazine one more time. The very first advertisement when you open this magazine up is a camel ad. And it's not just any camel ad, it's a 2-page spread. And it has meat, it has a hot dog, it has Egyptian-looking women, and it has a pyramid. So if there's ever anything that would get the club's attention, this advertisement might. On the very next page is a car ad, and it says plush leather, genuine walnut, countless amenities, yeah, whatever. So we go from the first ad, which features a lot of things that the cabal enjoys, and then we go to the next page and it says yeah, whatever. That's kind of interesting. At the bottom it says Lincoln LS, Lincoln American Luxury. So remember LS. The next page is the editor's letter, and it says, I'm in charge here. And it has a picture of Ben Stiller kind of jokingly pushing JFK Jr.'s face out of the way. Looks like they're having some fun. But that's pretty interesting as well. Next one is a Versace ad, and then we move into the magazine. Right after the featured articles page is an ad for Saturn. Again, it's a 2-page spread with jeans on it. But here's the LS again. It says small, medium, LS, extra large. It says coming soon, the next big thing from Saturn. So it's another car ad, but it has the letters LS again. So if there's anything that you can think of that LS would stand for, put it in the comments, because I can't think of anything. So fitting with the entire 1999 George magazine theme, which I'm convinced was just disparaging the Clintons in any way possible, whether it's through the articles written or things written on the cover about them, we have a picture of a bald Bill Clinton, first of all, not looking very good there. And then we also have this comic that says, so Chelsea, what did you learn about with Daddy on Bring Your Daughter to Work Day? And she's walking in smoking a cigar. Not exactly the image I'm sure the Clintons want to portray. There's another recurring theme in this magazine, and it's about technology and robots and how it could be dangerous for us. So at the bottom of page 23, it says, Paranoia is for kids. Director Brad Bird on The Iron Giant, his new animated film about a Cold War-era town awakened by a robot that falls from the sky. And it talks about the danger of power, the power of technology and the power within ourselves. Because we are humans and have brains, we're always advancing technologically, but we aren't advancing morally. We face the same questions we always face, only the stakes increase. One of the questions was, why did you set this film in the 50s? And the director said, I chose the era because the surface is very Aussie and Harriet-ish, but underneath all the seeds were being sown for what was to come. Also, people were fascinated by Sputnik and the idea that the eyes of our enemy were floating over us. I thought that was a very good atmosphere of fear to drop a giant robot into. And then the last question asked of this director was, should children's stories contain such dark messages? And he said, absolutely. And I think we do children a terrible disservice by trying to throw a pillow under every harsh element. Most of the really powerful stories from this century and the previous ones have had elements of darkness. It is simply a way of preparing children for the reality of life. So a robot falls from the sky and it's watching us all. Keep that in mind as well. Let's move forward. There's a really cool quote from Richard Pryor in this magazine on page 26 that I wanted to highlight. It says, 2 things people throughout history have had in common are hatred and humor. I am proud that I have been able to use humor to lessen people's hatred. I thought that was a really cool quote. On the next page, we have Hillary in a New York Yankees hat, and it says Hillary's Nightmare Scenario. If you recall, April of 1999, JFK Jr. put on the cover of George magazine, Why Hillary Won't Be Senator. This article is eerily similar to that headline. And it says, sure, New York Democrats are in a frenzy with visions of Senator Hillary Rodham Clinton dancing in their heads. But could she still get cold feet and not run? The answer, according to one GOP insider, is not just maybe, but a resounding yes. She's not going to run, the source says. And the reason is Rick Lazio. Lazio, the boyish four-term Republican representative from Long Island, is likely to join the race. Fiscally conservative, he was close to Newt Gingrich. Lazio holds moderate views on abortion and guns that will play well across the state. Hillary's poll numbers are at their peak now, but as people get to know Lazio, she'll sink like a stone. On page 35, there's another ad for the 250 ways to make America better. How would you make America better? We talked about this in the last episode, which is that it's available in stores on June 14th. Well, what's June 14th? It's DJT's birthday and it's Flag Day. So I think that's funny that Donald Trump is talking about the 250th anniversary of this country. This book talks about 250 ways to make America better. DJT talks about making America great again. And the book came out on June 14th. I think it's just a little too coincidental for me. That's just me though. And then on the next page after that, we have the robot, another robot. It says his great-grandfather was a Honda Civic. Is it possible for a robot to inherit power, intelligence, style? Assuming the robot is the revolutionary new Honda P3, the answer is yes. After all, he comes from a long line of Honda products with those traits. So here's another robot. More talk of robots in this magazine. Was JFK Jr. trying to let us know that technology was going to eventually turn into robots? I think we kind of had a clue, but now we're really starting to see it all come to fruition with AI. We have another article in this magazine called Summer Lovers. Want to know what's really going on with the president and Hillary Clinton? Start paying attention to their vacations when fun in the sun is just about the last thing on their minds. Their vacations. So I read through this article, and it's mostly about how Bill Clinton loves the spotlight and Hillary kind of shies away from it. Bill loves to golf and Hillary likes to read books and stuff like that, but it's talking about how they're kind of two different people when they're alone versus when they're around people. I think we all can kind of see that. In the Ask Alphonse section, there's one person that asked this question: why is Bill Clinton the most feared president ever to hold office? And Alphonse says, unless you're an attractive federal employee, a Republican running for president, or have chaired the Senate Whitewater Committee, I'd say you have little to fear from Bill Clinton. That's awesome. There's the article from Janine Garofalo, which talks about how politicians are actors. And basically they take politicians who can be actors and they use them to their advantage. I thought this article is very interesting. This article is meant to be comedy, but it actually is very real, and I think we can see it playing out right now. Lots of politicians who are basically just actors. Why was the issue after July 1999 called the political humor issue, and why was Ben Stiller sharpening a pencil in a Bill Clinton pencil sharpener, given all of the jabs that JFK Jr. gave to the Clinton family in the whole year leading up to this in 1999? Was this political humor issue a message from JFK Jr., basically stating that I'll have the last laugh, or was it just a magazine? What do you guys think? That does it for this episode of the George Collection. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time.
Of this extraordinary magazine, George, which is a hoot of a magazine. I thought you were a lawyer.
I was.
What happened?
Well, we decided, actually taking a cue from folks like yourself and you around the 1992 election, that there was an opportunity here to change the definition of a political magazine. Certainly the way Americans were accessing information about politics and politicians was changing. Candidates were appearing on late night talk shows, on talk radio, on sitcoms, and there was a kind of a leveling process, and while the rest of media clearly had caught up with that, we felt that political magazines per se hadn't.
Your mother was a hell of an editor at Doubleday.
That's what I hear.
Would she have liked George?
I think she would have.